Good morning, beautiful people of the internet, and welcome once more to the Sunday Special Live, joined as always by Helen, Chorley, Adam, the G, Lawrence, Piotr, Rusinek, and myself. And today, Helen has overcome obstacle after obstacle to join us. That's it. We didn't say turn it off and turn it back on again, but she succeeded where I would have thrown it out the window. So that's a step in the right direction. Piotr is in some new fancy environment. We like the wall. It's featured. It's beautiful. Let's go. And Adam, in his Sunday supplement, discussed auctions. So we're really happy to get involved in this one. So Adam, give us the précis and let's kick this off.
So, usual sort of typical rundown, kicked off with some of the macro stuff that was important this week. So, it was pretty much one-way traffic in terms of how badly the economy isn't doing in general, and also as it relates to property, really, because we had the PMIs and the services numbers came in. They were well above what was expected for January. As usual, the forecasters, it's a good job these people don't earn their living from forecasting, because they'd be ever so thin. And I'll tell you, Jay, there wouldn't be any dessert shop trips for them because they're so bad at their job. The services PMI number came in above 54, 54.3. Well, that's getting into rude health territory, well above the long-term average. Definitely symptomatic of an expanding economy. I'm not saying this is quite as good as what the US have been seeing in terms of their economic expansion in the face of high interest rates, but it's not bad. And ultimately we're not one-trick ponies in this country, but we're fairly close to it, because if the services side of the economy is doing well, it basically means that we're doing well because everything else is dragged along by it. Construction PMIs were still under 50, so they were still closing, still shrinking, but they were a little bit better than expected, or quite a bit better than expected. So that side of it, I do love the PMIs as a good gauge of what's happening to the economy in real time. They very rarely let you down in terms of filtering through into the GDP figures, so they are really quite good. Don't know if that chat's already switched Helen off, but I'm guessing her tech gremlins have remained in residence, unfortunately. So then Halifax house price index. The Halifax need to start hanging their head in shame in terms of their forecasts, because they put on a whopping figure for the month, 1.7% for the month of January. Sorry, 1.3 it was, 1.3, but they've forecasted 4% down for 2024. So they're already over 5% away from their target after just 1 month, which doesn't look that clever. And I'm fairly confident February is going to look pretty reasonable for them as well. So looks like another cock up in the making from one of the large forecasters. Who would have thought it? There we go. And then the old RICS house price balance, where they asked the surveyors to take a view on whether the prices are moving upwards or downwards. We had a print of -18, which sounds pretty rubbish, really, until you zoom out and go, that's actually the best print since Liz Truss. So remember, that just means that of the 100 theoretical surveyors that have been pulled, of course, they ask every member of the RICS, but when they normalise it to base it around 100, there's 18 more saying the market is going down than are saying it is going up. But I did make the point that surveyors do tend to be realists to the point of failure, quite miserably pessimistic, which is why banks like them apart from anything else. So I just think they might still be a little bit slow to the party, and I'm expecting a better print again next month. But again, it was well ahead of where expectations were. So all of this kind of really fed into economy's doing better than expected. Where's this terrible breakdown that the media have been promising us for the last bazillion years or whatever? Well, we're not there as usual. We're not there yet. So what it did mean is it hardened the bond yields a bit. So we've drifted back near the 4% number, which I hope is the kind of psychological and realistic ceiling for the 5-year at the moment. So we're probably at the top of that range. What does that mean for everyone? If you've got any mortgages, you're thinking about waiting for a better price on a product, don't do that at the moment. The prices you can take are good value in terms of the products that are out there. So get your dips in, get that sorted, because if they do start coming back down through the course of the application process, jolly good. But what I will say is we're nearly back to, I mean, I'm not going to use words like efficiency when it comes to remortgaging property, but we have made some leaps of bounds forward where on, I think it was the 2nd of Feb, we said, right, we knew we'd had a problem with a property. I know, surprise, surprise, right? It's passive income, yeah? No, we had a problem.
Can't say that. You can't say that on the internet. Well,
live on
you
air.
could destroy an entire educational industry doing shit like that, Adam.
And
Where's the responsibility?
I think possibly we should take a supplement halftime break and segue beautifully into the education commentary for the week. But let me just say this. I think it was this Friday, the 2nd of Feb. Everything's finally all sorted with this. We had big problems with the tenant. They've come out. We've got a bridge expiring on the 31st of March. We want to make that deadline anyway, and we get charged if we don't make that deadline. So we're motivated to get that turned around and sorted. And I said, look, there's only one. I said to Simon at 978, I said, look, there's only one lender that's any chance of making this deadline, and that's Land Bay. So I want you to take the best price product that we can and see what we can do. And sure enough, we're already at a stage now where the valuation's booked for next week, and that's going to give us a fighting chance for turning it around by the 31st of March, because all the legals and everything are quite quick. Why Land Bay? If you've never used them, there's a lot of automated stuff in the process. There's a lot of e-signatures where e-signatures can be used. Someone has taken a really sensible approach to the customer journey and the speed side of it. And of course, from their perspective, they can get more money out the door because their application process is more, streamlined, with probably less people involved in it. Well, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And for the record, the product that we took is a 5-year. We're just looking for a 5-year vanilla buy to let, 5.29 with a 2% fee. So if you chop the 2% into 5 years, that's 5.69 total cost of debt. I think that's pretty fair. I think that's still around because I think we took another 1 or 2 of those anyway because they were just the best offer rather than me just saying, right, we're doing it with Land Bay. But it does show you that obviously price sensitivity is not everything. Well, hey, she just wanted to be in a different place on the screen. So she's got a wish. She's back. She's quite a prima. You wouldn't think it, but she's quite a prima donna like that, actually. So if I'm not in the bottom left, she says I'm cancelling the call. But we did.
That excitement about numbers, it just got me too hot and bothered.
But if we segue before I get into the meat of what I talked about in the supplement today, there was a lovely Facebook post that we talked about this week, which I saw as a thinly veiled "who's the biggest shafter in property" by someone asking, if you've got to pick one phrase in property that really rings your bells and sets the alarms off and all the rest of it, what would you pick? And I chose, don't worry about paying back your bounce back loans, which is a personal, probably, I think we call it a nadir, don't we? An ultimate all-time low of all shafters' property advice. Don't repay your bounce back loans. But I think some people went for some more traditional, shall we say, or more oft overused phrases than that. So you guys must have a pet peeve one. If you want to, who wants to go first is the only question.
Calling it a property journey makes me feel deeply angry with the world. It's a really and your attitude determines your latitude, and the phrases that people use to like make you go, oh yeah, professional development and like personal development and all that kind of stuff. Well, the only way to do that is to do my course. Well, actually, it's not, is it? Come on, be fair. Personal development could be meditation. It could be, it could be anything. It doesn't mean having to sit in a room on a shitty chair listening to you chat bollocks for 8 hours in a single day.
Some of those courses,
whatever the way you're structured. Yeah.
Some of those courses, personal development might be not doing their course. Actually, I think that could be. There's an argument for that.
That's true.
If I want to develop a decent personality, I can not do your course. Yeah.
What's
love
your
numbers.
bank paying you guys? I can offer you 1% more.
I love numbers, but the overuse of the number 7 anything ending in a 7 has me like not running to the back of the room. It has me running to the other side of the universe.
That one is particularly annoying because one of my 3 lucky numbers is the number 7.
Oh no!
I actually like 7s as well.
Yeah.
It's a nice
It
number.
annoys me. It's a
I
very
suppose it
powerful
depends.
number.
Well, it depends on context. Then it depends who's using them. It's got anything to do with anybody with a YouTube channel.
There's been in the last week 3 people that have tried to add me as a connection on LinkedIn, and all of them have got master NLP practitioner. I'm like, you can fuck right off. I've got no time for it. I've got and the worst thing is, I'll any conversation we ever have, I'm just going to know that you're doing it, and it's going to bore me, and it's going to be pathetic, and I'm going to tear it to pieces. And I might get bored, and I might enjoy that once or twice. But having 10 or 15 of them do it all at once is laborious.
I might change my LinkedIn strapline after that to pub level NLP practitioner brackets, and that's good enough for me. Thanks very much. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. How do you con people out of buying the first round every round? That's the only usefulness of NLP in the pub, isn't it? You're going to buy this sooner or later.
Extreme today's prices, Jay. Extremely useful. I think you'll find. Extremely useful. Well, that's our moment of catharsis for the first quarter of the show. So I went on to discuss a couple more things. One of them, Zoopla had released a report about the state of the market and first-time buyers in general, and there were some interesting stats in that. Over 50% of transactions were first-time buyer last year. One of the things that I didn't know. Well, a few things I didn't know. 19% the average deposit, which kind of poured a bit of water on 5% deposit isn't accessible enough, so you can do it with a 1% deposit and probably show what if the government do implement that stupid 99% idea. And as just discovered, it's a good job it's not 97%, otherwise Helen would be running to the back of the universe. But if they implement the 99% mortgage, as we've kind of predicted already, that's going to do absolutely nothing at all, because it's not really where the blocker is. But what it showed me is first-time buyers showed the most motivation and the most resilience to carry on trading in that market that we had last year. And second steppers and all the rest of it kind of thought they might wait for a bit, or they were stuck in a place with a mortgage that they didn't feel they could really move off of. Whereas if you haven't already got a loan, then your entry point is different from if you've got a cheaper loan, and that kind of keeps you in the property that you were in. But the other interesting bit was the other trend that there was a move away from terraced houses being the typical first-time buyer stock to flats being the typical stock. And I speculated, is that a bit to do with leasehold reform? But it's also inevitably to do with pricing. And people still wanted to be. So you had to take what you got to get on the ladder last year, and the heavily motivated still did it. And if that meant going to a flat rather than a terraced house to start you off, then so be it. I mean, no one could really call that progress, I don't think, but it is what it is. And they kept calm and carried on. So I salute the first-time buyers who did still trade in a thin volume market apart from anything else. I had a bit of a rant this week. It didn't make the cut for the supplement because there was quite a bit in there. But I had a bit of a rant about what I'm calling the Great Pillage, which is effectively the frozen tax thresholds that we've got till 2029 if Mr. Hunt has his way. I'm not sure that, you've seen a week where Labour have dropped their 28 billion green investment pledge and then blamed the Conservatives for that. Whereas really, I think they've done the right thing because they needed to weasel out of this pledge as quickly as they could, because they hadn't costed it and they don't know where they're going to get the 28 billion from. So there's also they might be being quite politically savvy, because I'm not sure the general public care too much about U-turns and stuff, especially when you're not in government already. So the reality is Sunak's dropped a lot of the green stuff, as we know, the EPCs, very specifically to our industry, but he's dropped a lot of the we're going to get to net zero really fast at all costs kind of pledges. And I don't think politically that's been that unpopular, because I think people are really, and this is the constant green debate that there is. If it doesn't stack up financially, you can't do it, right? Because
there was
the
news
worst
that came
thing
out
you
with
could,
BP, wasn't there? There was a news that came out with BP about their profit this year, and actually they've plowed so much in the last 3 years into green and renewables that actually they're becoming less profitable. So the big shareholders meeting was all about, look, the green is good, but it's moving at a speed, but we still need to be profitable in order to carry on the trading activity.
and I think even though your Green Party candidacy lies in tatters at the side of the road after that statement, Mr. Howard, it does have the benefit of being true, which is awkward. This
the last time I voted green was 2017.
you're not coming to the
party of choice.
Mate, the annual lunch, whatever you do, if you're a Green Party, campaigner, presumably you have to have it on recycled bread or something like that. But the annual lunch is throwing away your ticket as we speak. But the reality is, this is the irony of the inconvenient truth, because the inconvenient truth is, if it's not good value, it will actually, being very serious for a moment, take money out of the poorest people in society's pockets in a disproportionate way. Because who pays for all of this stuff? The people do. And as we learned in 2022, the people who have the lowest incomes are hit hardest when there's a problem with the price of energy. And there's an argument to say the only real material difference between the agricultural economy in the UK of the 1700s and then when we got towards the Industrial Revolution in the mid 1800s was really the price of energy. And the use of fossil fuels in its extreme. Of course, the steam engine was around and stuff like that, but still, the discovery of how to extract it in a meaningful way and only killing a few people compared to killing lots of people, savage though that sounds, that difference in the cost of energy is effectively if you had one thing that was responsible for everything that's moved forward in society for the past 200 years, it would be the cost of energy. And if you're going to mess with that and make energy more expensive, and the ridiculously middle class membership of Just Stop Oil are the ones who dictate an agenda, then actually there's going to be major league fallout for the bottom 20% of the population, and or the end of growth, which, circling back round to our friends at the Green Party, the end of growth is something they're quite keen on actually as it goes. But we are where we
broadly.
And this is it. And the frozen tax thresholds is killing. And I argue it hits the self-employed even harder, because no one's going to cry any tears for the self-employed who don't pay national insurance because they take money through dividends out their companies and stuff like that. But they didn't get the 2% pay cut, tax cut in their PAYE, because they don't pay that side of it. But they're paying it through their dividend tax, because this was all supposed to be equalised, and then their dividend tax wasn't lowered. Their dividend tax was left the same. So they're actually not benefiting at all. And I made the point, the average self-employed person still only earns about 60% of what the average PAYE worker does, which tells you, A, it's harder than people think, B, people go self-employed for flexibility and lifestyle reasons, and they're the people who are not being favoured by what Hunt has done in the most recent budget, which I just think is a bit bloody unfair. And of course, perhaps you could accuse me of not being that objective, given that I'm self-employed effectively, but I do like to think that I try and be as factual and reasonable as possible in these situations. And perhaps there's
pointing out the disparity, right? You're just pointing out the disparity rather than
exactly. And then the last two, before we get onto the auctions, the other bit that I've written a piece about today is about the yield curve, which has this kind of I spent some time trying to think of a nice, sophisticated, clever way of explaining the shape of the yield curve, but it looks like a snake, right? It looks like a snake, so I've called it a snake. It's a snake of a yield curve, and there's no one anywhere that I can find, and I do scour some of the most informative / boring YouTube channels on the internet with people who don't end their pricing in a 7 and don't tell you not to repay your bounce back loans. And none of them seem to be talking about the shape of the yield curve. And I had to put my hand up and say, look, I'm not sure that I understand all of this, but I broke it down into its component parts and talked about why it's the shape that it is. And there's one anomaly that really remains for me, and that is how they think the 30-year bonds can be 4.5% and above, because that just does not add up with what I think I know about the longer term future of the UK economy. So if you are mega risk averse and or you can buy some 30 years with particularly low coupons, high capital gains, and your cash flow can survive that, I still think they look like an unbelievably, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I would never be a bond trader. Let's get that, all of that out of the way, all the disclaimers out of the way. But I still think they look like incredible value. But I also think the market looks wrong. And when it looks wrong, you know, I like to speak and try and work through it and work it out. And I'm not there yet. But the final piece of the jigsaw was my best data on auction is what we do at auction, you know, real, genuine, in the now stuff. Managed to do a couple of deals that felt like, I mean, it's not like we didn't do any auction deals last year. We did lower volume than I would like to have done, but it was a tough market with the interest rate being where it was, apart from anything else. But these auction deals feel a little bit more like 2019. And 2019 was a good year for us at auction, a really nice year. I think we did something approaching about 30 deals, and there's a promise here of us having a similar year for 2024 while things stay the same. And we've talked before a little bit about the wobble that we expect around the election and stuff like that. But I thought I could push that over to you folks for a more rounded, robust, and perhaps data driven, because I know you keep a lot of the real time stats and we don't tend to do that. But I thought maybe you guys could add something to that, or just tell me I'm completely wrong, which is also fine, you know.
To start, 2019 was a very good vintage for auctions. You know, the Chevrolet did exceptionally very well. Chardonnay not so much, but for auctions it was really very good. A couple of anecdotes. We know a particular trader's just word of mouth put 50 properties into a London auction room middle of Jan, and sold all 50 and made on all 50.
Whoa.
So realistically, as a trader, he would have expected to maybe have sold 30, lost on 10 and broken even on 10. Like there'd be a fluctuation. But to sell, offered and sold all 50 that he put in and made money on all 50. Now that money made could be anywhere from 5 grand to 150 grand and anything in between. But he
That's
made
rude health territory, isn't it, as well? I mean, that is rude health territory.
It's disgusting behavior, if you ask me. But you can't help but admire it. I mean, and it's one of the things, like, traders know that they don't always buy well. They know that they don't always buy well. And the speed at which they have to buy means that they have to take educated, insurable risks to go, right, I don't know, but this is my ballpark. There's nothing else in a quarter mile that's close to this price. If I buy in here, maximum I'm going to lose 5 or 10 grand. Like that's especially in the north, that's where
low downside, chunky upside, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, cross your fingers and hope that it doesn't merge you in the end. But it's but for all 50 out of 50, it's special, and it's not really anomalous. There's another guy who I think sells anywhere between 10 and 20 a month, so smaller numbers. And I think he sold and made on about 16 of those 20 in January. But the market is looking good for him because he's buying a little bit more at auction now. So he's using auction arbitrage, the thing that Save Dirty loves more than, well, not more than his wife and kids, but he does love auction arbitrage.
It's close. I've heard it's close. Yeah.
It's close. It is. It has to be. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah. So and he's going to be trading a fair chunk in this first quarter. And personally, for the Auction Buyers Club, you know, the first deal was done. You know, we cracked the champagne on the
ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. And it was actually like 20 grand below the maximum bid. So on the sell
Love
point,
that.
she did exceptionally very well.
It was really good, and also it wasn't easy. And the auction, yeah, like I think the reason why the person got this deal was because auctioneer just didn't make it easy to register to bid, and it was just a nightmare. And she got registered to bid like an hour before, and because we were sending messages directly to the auctioneer and actually managed to unpick things. But I think that particular auction was Barnard Marcus auction. I don't think it did that well. And there's a lot of peculiar things, as you guys will see in the next episode of Property Auction Hunters. Jay picked 2 lots that, how would you say this? Very peculiar, rather unusual.
They're perfect for auction, but they're not perfect to be sold with that auctioneer or marketed in the way it was. But they were very peculiar.
Not at the price that they were marketing those.
I think that the easy word is a key one just to focus on for a moment, because I think what that's saying probably is that a lot of the buyers aren't necessarily back to the table, but quietly there's probably perhaps a silent majority that agree with what we've said over the past sort of 6 or 7 weeks or so and have taken action and got the wallet out. But also there's plenty of stock. And certainly I noticed this week Rightmove had said they'd had more stock on board, new stock, than they'd ever had before for February. And of course, everybody kind of expects the market to get better in February, but the open market was quite healthy in January.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it will necessarily plow upwards from here, I don't think so. But it's just that nice level where there's the people who kind of wait for all the ducks to be in a row are still hiding in the corner somewhere and are not really sure. But we're about as sure as we can possibly be that the ducks are in a row. We just need to get on with it and try and front run some of the competition, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
the
I guess
opportunity level's gone up, right? Because there's a couple of auctioneers that are now doing 2 auctions a month. You know, kind of like the I am sold model, where there's an auction a day, or it's 100 auctions a day, or whatever it is. You now have the traditional turned online auctioneers now thinking, right, well, why can't we have an auction every 3 weeks?
That raises another good point, and I'd be interested to see what you guys and the ABC members have thought about this. But we've seen a bigger willingness for the houses to do deals on fees. So we're pretty notorious for, you know, the online model. I don't like it. I don't hate it. I like the fact it puts people off, which is obviously not good for the vendor. But we will often go in and say, look, we can pay 96 for this. Now you're telling me 95 is the reserve. What I'm saying to you is, A, you need to get the vendor to take a little bit less. But B, in order to fit that 96 profile, you might need to take a lower fee, because some of their fees are pretty eye-watering, especially on a lot that's under 100 grand. And we've had more success with that in the past week or two than we've had for years, because there just hasn't been a need for them to deal, and they've been keen. And like you said, there's been a varying levels of success. So I'm assuming those 50 properties went into Auction House London. That's an assumption of mine.
It's an incorrect assumption, but it was an assumption worth making. It was Savills.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Even more interesting in that case. But as Piotr said, like Barnard Marcus was, I don't suppose Barnard Marcus would have been opening any champagne on the back of their results. It was probably a fair auction where you had to trawl through to get the value if you were willing to spend the time, and things didn't go at a hot level.
There's 300 lots, and they finished the auction by 2 o'clock or 2:30, something like super early.
They were charging through, because we bought lot 140 something, and it was it was much earlier than we expected it to be.
Yeah.
We're paying a lot more attention to Barnard Marcus now, because it's an absolute arse-ache to register to bid. Like Piotr said, that puts people off. So you're already cutting down the competition, whether you mean to or not. And then 2, because you look at Auction House London, they split their 336 lot auction over 2 days, and on the first day they ran till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, but that's only because Binstock likes such a ramp on every single lot that he does. I mean, let's face it. Andrew, I love you really if you're listening. Cheers, mate.
As a vendor, you want that take as long as it takes, pull every last penny out.
100% agree. 100% agree.
You compare that to 300 properties with Barnard Marcus done in 4.5 hours, and you think there is no way on God's green earth, on the balance of laws of physics and probability, that you are squeezing it out every single bit of juice from every single buyer. It's not. And obviously there are going to be exceptions along that 300 lot kind of, if you flip the coin enough, it's going to land 6 times on head, 6 times
okay,
on
enough saying next lot.
yeah. In reality, shut the fuck
That's
up.
how it works.
But what I'm saying is
you're right.
I am enjoying. I never used to enjoy going through a Barnard Marcus catalog because there's so much shit to wade through. But there are some decent bits hidden in there as well. And previously, I would have ignored them just because, they were actually pretty good at one stage. But now, the way that they've kind of dilated their timings and they've made it trickier and trickier and trickier for people to get on board to bid, it smells like.
I've always found that they also. The ordering of lots is not necessarily too strategic. So there might be high ticket, low ticket, high ticket, which is a terrible result for the vendor of the low ticket lot because the auctioneer just wants to get it out the door. What you're saying there is probably Auction House London spend about 4 times as long on trying to sell a lot as BM do. Well, that's a seriously significant statistic for a vendor and a purchaser. And of course, you're definitely right about the customer experience in terms of registering, because who does that put off? It doesn't put the pros off, right? You got to go through the ball ache to get to the end goal, right?
Yeah.
But as a vendor, you need the people who are registering for the first time, who've never bid at BM before, because ultimately they're the ones who are going to overpay for stuff, right? And if you make it difficult for them, then all you have left is a smaller pool, like you say, but also of more savvy operators who are going to quite happily keep their powder dry and live to fight another day on a lot and aren't going to go and chase a lot up to X or Y. So, yeah, really good points.
That's one thing. Another thing is that we discussed in the Auction Buyers Club. There's an auction house that charges £20 plus VAT for a legal pack if you want to download it, and it's ridiculous. Like things like that just make things so difficult for no reason whatsoever. They're not making any money from this.
Exactly. That's like a Ryanair model. That's Ryanair auctions.
Yeah, Ryanair auctions.
The payment processes that we happen.
They would commit seppuku if they thought they were being referred to as the Ryanair of auctions. These guys are they're probably inflated egos. They wear tweed, even their handkerchiefs are tweed. If they thought they were being called Ryanair auctioneers, they would literally commit seppuku.
If they're Ryanair, then Barnard Marcus would be the Weezer. Just wasteful.
I might actually send that clip to them just to see what happens.
Don't tell them I said it. I don't want hate mail.
I have to get Michael O'Leary on the show to give some opinions about charging people to go to the toilet and stuff like that. That would be good. I hear he likes a bit of free advertising, so you never know.
In fairness, when the underground were charging people to use the toilets, the ticket fare was lower.
There's no toilets mostly now in the underground station.
I know. They've replaced it with cupcake shops and other things like that.
You say that in a kind of wistful. There's a wistful way about your voice when you talk about cupcake shops, mate. Is there anything you want to tell us?
I have several issues, and a lot of them are baked. Yeah, but I'm working on myself. I'm focusing on me. I'm trying not to focus. I do want a muffin, though. I'll be honest. It'd be a cheat day today. I'm tempted. I'm moving towards the idea of like a quadruple chocolatey thing with like some salted caramel on top. They do one round the corner on the high street, and they do it.
You've already had a cheat week.
No, I haven't. I promise. But now I'm thinking about it, so I'm going to sell it to everybody else. They do this one. It's a lotus biscuit muffin, right? So you put the lotus biscuit, but in the middle, they obviously put like a ball of frozen lotus biscuit spread. So obviously when they bake it, the lotus biscuit spread just disperses throughout the muffin. I'm going to be honest with you, I think I cheated on my wife that day. That was an unbelievable muffin. and they just put a tiny little bit of sea salt and a couple of like chocolate chips on top, just to like break it up a little bit. So bitter chocolate, lotus spread.
Just to take the edge off, just tell us it's £4.97 plus VAT for one muffin. But if you run to the shop now,
yes.
click the button below this video.
Yeah, click the button now. Has to end in a 7.
There'll be a pop-up. There'll be a pop-up coming across your screens, everyone. Here we go.
By now,
only three left. Only 3 left in stock.
By now, you've figured out that Adam is an enabler.
Is that now a regular?
By now, you figured out that Helen
episode?
really does like Lotus biscuit spread.
Is this now a regular part of our episode where we just encourage people for unhealthy food choices? Last week it was McDonald's. This week is
Last week it was the chicken basket from Wetherspoons.
Oh,
I mentioned the chicken nuggets.
Yes.
I won't be misquoted. They are absolutely stunning. And
right, we need I prescribed 45 minutes of Chris Van Tulleken's ultra processed people to knock you off your unhealthy purchase. But it's one thing, Piotr. It's like any survey. There's intentions and then there's reality. Jay's off after this to have a bowl of blueberries and then dive in an ice bath, so he'll be fine.
The honesty is, if I say it, I'm not going to do it because now it's out of the system. I've talked about it. I've lived the fantasy of the muffin. I've not actually got
really? Have you? Because I'm already thinking my dirty secret of the week was 12.
Hold on, Helen. This is live.
It's not that, well, food dirty. The biggest portion available of Burger King onion rings. So good.
I got into trouble with Burger King a couple of weeks ago, a little bit more. I was driving down to London and I was absolutely parched, and I thought I'm going to stop off for a drink. And I came off at the services, and out of nowhere they've got these Doritos flaming hot chicken fries. What the fuck is a chicken fry? Well, I had to find out. So they do them in like batches or whatever. I got the biggest batch they had because I do love Doritos flaming hot. These were stunning. Absolutely stunning, but coated in salt and crap. So I had to then get off at the next exit to get another drink because I'd gone through the first bottle of water. I had to do another. So yes, the trouble was I ordered the biggest portion of the most. It was horrendous. And then, but the worst thing is, I ordered a water. So the woman looked at me like I just slapped her in the face. Like, who orders a bottle of water at a Burger King? I was like, well, clearly.
Can I have your most calorifically dense chicken fry, please? And then also water. Thank you.
Have some life-nourishing water to go with that, please. It's about balance, people. It's about balance.
Just to wash all the toxins and salt through the system. Perfect.
How are we doing for comments, Piotr? Have we got some stuff coming in?
We have a comment from Simon saying that
5.29
land-based product is still available. Ivona travels with our LinkedIn.
We're getting a few comments from LinkedIn somewhere, so something must be working. But
LinkedIn is working. We are connected, and I got notifications on my phone. So maybe something with your phone today, Ivona. Well, good to see you on the chat.
We just had a couple of comments in from LinkedIn about Burger King chili cheese bites, which I agree. Although they're not as good as the KFC sweet chili bites, because those are.
Ooh.
Oh dear.
Chili bites. Okay.
We only speak at the highest level on this channel, Edward, as you know. Yeah, the very highest level.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay.
You should see what we're like when we all meet up in person. There's
It's eclectic.
It's a conversation style speed dating, isn't it? You get 60 seconds and then the subject changes.
Exactly. I tell you what my mind is still on, and I'd really like to see anybody listening what their suggestions are, what we can call the snake yield curve. I've got as far as serpentine, but I think there's something more
wiggly
than
curly
that,
fries. Yeah. Curly fries to keep in date with today's conversation.
Curly fry.
It's got the
curly
whole
fry
roller coaster
curd.
kind of vibe going to it. Is it roller coaster? Is roller coaster good enough? It makes it sound exciting.
It's as exciting as the yield curve will ever sound. That much I can promise you. I spent many a long hour thinking about the excitement or not of the yield curve.
Yeah. Oh god, some of these comments. James, if we were getting paid, it'd be a good excuse.
Enough product placements. Wow. Mozzarella dippers and barbecue sauce.
Yes, Helen.
Oh,
you legend.
oh,
Crack sausage.
Linda.
There's one
I'm
reason
with you
why
on
they're
that.
expanding so quickly across the country, and that is the sausage roll. Let's face it.
Oh, I'm with you.
Like me and the Greg sausage roll, we are expanding across the county. If I get any bigger, it's bad news.
It just gets bigger all the time, like some kind of huge wave that's going to take over the country. Like it'll be Keir Starmer versus a sausage roll, and Keir Starmer will come a disappointing second in the next Labour Party leadership election.
It's the only thing that's beating inflation at the moment. Other product sizes are going down. The sausage roll is going up.
Oh, it's so good. My standard procedure when I land at Gatwick or Heathrow, Gatwick normally I think, is to go to Marks and Spencer's and have a slight addiction to their chicken and sweet corn sandwich. So go straight there, load up on Marks and Spencer's goodies, buy me a sandwich and stuff it in my face before I even got on the train. And then they opened a Greg's straight out of the exit. I was like, sod Marks and Spencer's, give me the sausage roll. So
handing people off on the way. Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, sir.
I'm a big fan of, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. We've already started talking about the food porn, so I'm going to take this to the next level. Linda, I'm talking to Linda specifically. Do you want to hear something absolutely filthy?
Yes.
This is what I do with a sausage roll. I open it up. It's got a seam along the side. Open it up. Ketchup along that sausage bad boy. Flip the bastard back over and down it goes. Now, if that doesn't make you the happiest woman you've ever been, I don't know however else to help you. But that is pure, absolute, unadulterated filth, and you're all welcome.
Who would have thought 9:45 and it's pimp my sausage roll territory? I can't believe this. But I reckon we could get some quite good stuff in here. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. The absolute finest. I think we mentioned it before. I might have done, but the confession live on air. It can't be good stuff. But the frozen doner meat you can buy in Asda and similar locations cooks in the microwave in 3.5 minutes, and then I've got some ranch sauce from Costco and some Cholula hot sauce. Mix that together. Cholula. It's like, now listen, let's be clear, no carbs apart from the sauces. So let's have a little word for the keto while we're at it, right? But it's like the meal of utter champions. I was a bit stuck the other day, and I've got 6 minutes, and I've got to have dinner, otherwise I'm not going to eat. Right, that's where we're going to be at for the day. I'm into the freezer. Out comes the frozen doner meat. 5.5 minutes later, couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier. Instant gratification. Going back to the guru phrases of the day, instant gratification. Sometimes, folks, it's important. Just remember where you came from, right?
Guys, where do I hand notice? You guys find someone else to text stuff and.
Now, Adam, if you want to hear something absolutely disgusting with the kebab, let me explain something to you. I used to live in Watford, and they had a couple of clubs there. Not that I was a big clubber, but anyway, at the end of the night, there was a place called Kismet Kebabs. I don't know if they're still there or not. Absolutely legendary. And the boss man, you have to call them boss man. It's part of the culture. The boss man there, I'd ask him to shave the doner meat down, stick it on the griddle, then put the chili sauce on it, and he would griddle the doner meat with the chili sauce, put it over the chips, and then bang on the burger sauce on top. Now that is a kebab to be proud of.
Let me tell you the secret of how I gained about 5 stone when I was at university, right? Now, you need to understand something. Obviously, Oxford is a great seat of learning, and we all know I'm quite shy about talking that I went to the great university, and Helen and I shared the degree that was once the most famous in the country, if not the world, until Liz Truss did it, and then it was screwed. They have this quirky thing where they have kebab vans. It's the only place I still know where there'll be kebab vans all over the place. Now, on my side of the city, Helen went to a much more illustrious central and wonderfully formed college than I did. The upside of going to St Hugh's like I did is you have to walk into town, and you walk past which was at the time Ali's kebab van. Now, to say that I formed a close relationship with this man would be a vast understatement. And can I just say, after
the wedding,
we're talking 2/3 of the way through the first term, I would just have to nod. There was no words that needed to change hands. And then when we got into the second year, he would watch to see if I was coming down the road to prepare how I liked it. I had a discount off the price list. It was one of my first loyalty card experiences.
Whoa.
He used to ask, even when I came back after I'd left and would come down to see some mates or something, he would ask how my girlfriend was. I mean, this was like the US and the UK years ago, Thatcher and Reagan. This was the special relationship. You know, I never went there and asked for credit because I didn't want to take the Michael, but I believe there would have been credit available had it been. I think I was in good standing. Don't get me wrong. I was well capitalised for £1.50 kebab meat, chips, chili con carne. You used to get the chili con carne on it as well, and then the cheese and So yeah, great way to bulk up for rugby or whatever the excuse I was using at the time was for just eating like a horrific tramp. But it was a stunning diet that there was there.
That would be a good study, actually, the proximity of a kebab van to the ranking in cuppers of the college rugby team. Because we had Ahmed's kebab van, which I never partake. It's just not my thing. Sausage roll, yeah. Kebab, no. And I believe St Hugh's and Teddy Hall were right up there, top 3 for most of the time we were there. So just saying, correlation.
Good. Well, we had this week at school, it was my middle son's swimming gala, right? And of course, because he goes to school where I went to school, they give you the option of whether you want to be in the same house as your parents were in. And of course I was like, well, you can choose not to be, but you will have to move out if you do, because I was in 1997, I was the house captain, and it would be fair to say I took that role pretty seriously, right? Pretty seriously. So I was the only parent to go in an appropriate, so our house color is gold. And unfortunately I've got a canary yellow shirt that I wore with pride. And our house were rather good at swimming, as it turned out. And we won this gala the other day. And someone said, someone who I don't know very well, one of the mums behind me tapped me on the shoulder and she said, oh, you'll have to wear your lucky shirt again. And I said, you do realise that I did wear this shirt deliberately. And I do tell anyone who's willing to listen, I was the house captain in 1997 when we won the all-house trophy competition. And our name is still emblazoned on a board somewhere in a back room gathering some dust. One of my great wins of all time. But yeah, fabulous stuff. It's like it was yesterday. Talk about living on past glories and past kebabs, actually, as it goes.
Nothing like reminiscing about the dirtiest thing you can think of that you've eaten, right? Just like, that's absolutely glorious.
Chris Pycroft's comments probably the winner of the day. That's for sure there. I like that one.
And now we're on the treadmill listening to you about doner meat and sausage rolls.
Well,
sorry, Chris.
Sorry, Chris.
It's coming from Guy.
Morning, Guy.
God,
You'd be surprised at how unsophisticated it was. Yeah, absolutely.
That one is not allowed, but he's off with his doggy for a walk on the bike ride.
I subscribe to everything in moderation these days, so you'll be pleased to hear. So yeah, all's good.
I went to Oxford on a night out once. It was my cousin's stag do, and it was an absolute. These guys. I didn't think I was tame, but these guys were. Anyway, we went to this one pub and we met up with the rowing team, not because we knew them, but because they were making. We just congregated and everyone started drinking. Then it really started drinking, and we must have left. It was about 2:00 in the morning after a couple of the guys got lost in a strip club. I don't know how that happened, but it happens apparently. It's a gravitational pull if you have enough lager inside you. Anyway, we're walking down the street, and can't remember the name of the kebab van, but we crossed paths with the kebab van, which was at the time my thinking divine intervention. Can't go to bed with just booze in you. That's you're going to wake up the next day in pieces. So we're
good,
there, and
yeah.
then there was this girl who would look really very distressed and distraught, and there was this guy who was kind of like hood up and kept following her, trying to grab her by the hand and stuff like that. So me and what appeared to be about 30 blokes, like rowing team guys, the guys that we were there with, basically separated this guy and girl. We got her in a taxi, got her sent off wherever. I think one of the guys got her driving license or her ID and said just take her there, and kind of picked her out. But it was a really nice kebab. So I don't know if it was Ali's. It could have been. I could have inadvertently had an Ali's without knowing it.
Oxford legend, mate. Oxford, absolute legend. Such a kind man as well. Such a kind man. A true feeder of the Western world, but such a kind man.
Feeder of the heart and the soul, as well as the stomach. One would
He
say.
was one of my first mentors, Jay. At the end of the day, and that's why, you know.
Oh, amazing.
I wonder if he was an NLP master.
Well, he certainly rolled me over, but his kebab prices didn't end in a 7, Helen. So there was no need to run to the back of the room. He actually used to keep some quite larger trays for the more well-heeled customer, but I was upgraded to the big tray within weeks of announcing my presence via my good standing at the van, the big tray.
I think for people selling kebab, expecting their clients to run somewhere is a bit of a high expectations.
Oxymoron kind of situation. Yeah. So what's everyone got on deck for the week that's coming up, folks? What's going to be keeping you busy? When's your next travel to and from the UK, Helen?
Actually, I'm back on the 22nd or 3rd of February. I'm coming back to go on a course myself. So quick trip back. It wasn't completely planned, but decided, yes, that I shall invest in some personal development. So I'm back for that. And it didn't end in a 7.
Is it the Train the Trainer NLP mastermind of masterminds or something?
Train the Trainer.
Most definitely not. Oh God. And then I'm back in March. That's just a quick trip. Then I'm back in March for the Inspiration Awards that we talked about last week. So, and then actually I'm back in April and May and June and July. So I'm a regular. I'm
making a habit of it, quite clearly.
Yes. But I'm going to try and keep it. The weather's getting nice here already, so I'm going to try and keep it to short trips.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What about you guys? What you got on the deck next week?
We have an Auction Buyers Club taster session on Tuesday. So to run like a monthly taster session for people who want to join the Auction Buyers Club, and we've got spaces limited to 10 people on each car, and we already have next 2 months booked basically. So it's looking good on that Tuesday. And we're going to be preparing for Jay coming over to Lisbon the following week. And we're going to be recording some podcasts and some content for the YouTube channel. So, lots of things like that. And we have, we're just closing on completing a lease for a commercial building we have in Bristol. So hopefully that will be done sometime end of this week. Which will conclude
we've had a couple of open market sale completions that seem to have taken ages, but now, like always, the things are now dropping into order. But we've been able to fill the pipeline quite nicely with some of these just vanilla bread and butter style deals. So there's quite a lot of I've got quite a nice, quite eclectic mix really at the moment of the bread and butters coming in, and it's all doing fine. But also there's some bigger deals that are all back at the table that have got some very quirky problems to them that are also where I've been talking to the vendor for some of them for a long time, and kind of what I've been saying will play out has played out, and people are understanding that actually the prices have moved downwards from where they were. I'll give you a good example of one where I explained to a guy this week, he's like, I can't understand why the price has dropped since 2020. And this is not in terms of sort of my pricing, this is based on 2 RICS valuations. And I was explaining to him that the thing is, they're both yield-based valuations. The first one was done when the bond yield was 0, The second one's been done when the bond yield's 4%. So it's 4% worse off straight away. And so even though you've improved the rents and you have done all of this, you have moved the asset forward in absolute terms, but in terms of relative attractiveness versus someone putting the money in the bank at a simple level, it just doesn't do what it used. The premium above the risk-free rate is a problem, and it's in many ways it's going to this for commercial is going to continue to play out, where we're at this new world of quite hard bond yields, and that looks like the theme of and I think that will be the theme of the next couple of months. Although, like I said earlier, and I think we're pushing that sort of top of the range territory, but there will be more and more people who've been hanging around for the better valuation, which just isn't really there at the moment on the commercial side. But the resi side, the pricing it's better than it was because it was so horrible last year. It's relative rather than absolute, you know.
Yeah. Actually, I had some good feedback for you, Adam. This week had a client, like a mentoring call with someone that was at your and Rod's workshop day, and just said actually what amazing value it was. And like, obviously we know it's going to be jam-packed with information, but he really, really enjoyed it. I think I signed up for the one in April already, and hopefully I will be back for the one in April too.
Amazing. Well, we had one of my favorite ever bits of feedback because we sent out a survey to everyone who came along, and we got a pretty healthy response rate, and someone described it as a relentless dump of knowledge or something like that. And I just thought, that's if I could pick a phrase that I wanted people to think of something that we ran as, I'll take relentless dump of knowledge all day long. Absolutely. Left nothing behind, left nothing.
That needs to go in your LinkedIn like profile. I am a relentless dumper of knowledge.
We might need to rephrase the dumper bit because it doesn't sound ideal, does it? But I know what you mean. We'll fit it next to pub level NLP practitioner. Send in a few more folks who are still watching after the 20-minute section on food and haven't gone to cook themselves a fried breakfast or whatever. Send in some more ideas for all of our. In fact, they should do that. We should do a little contest for who can do the best LinkedIn strapline for all four of us. That would be quite cool. Would be quite cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Give us your suggestions.
Amazing. Brilliant, guys. Okay, well, let's wrap this up. Thanks everyone for engaging in this conversation very actively today. Must be the food element. The dopamine receptors have been activated. Brilliant. Okay, guys, enjoy your Sunday. We'll chat with you all next week.
And if you're in Malta, happy Carnival.
Thanks, everyone.